Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Buttercup here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the Maxi Toys videos, and I'm the toughest one of them all from the Powerpuff Girls universe. So I digress. So yeah, welcome back for more Let's Play of the forms of Mega Man and Bass for the Mega Man's playthrough of the game, but the forms of the Mega Man Marathon. So you remember last time we've done the intro stage, and also 4 of those Robot Masters, Cold Man, and Burner Man, and also I would say Pirate Man, and also by the forms of Ground Man. So today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be taking on Tengu Man stage, and as you can see, for the likes of Mega Man's playthrough so far, I've recently got myself my first game over, just because I don't think I can able to do this level with just 0 lives at the moment. So I thought to myself, I might as well able to actually just you know, get my game over run of the forms of Mega Man's playthrough, because again, most of the level design for Mega Man doesn't seem to work very well with him. So even though that, you know, Bass is definitely one of the better pick of the two, so even though that makes it a little bit more of a count. So, not digress though. So, yeah, today was actually forms of the 23rd of August 2018, so we've naturally almost nearly close towards the end of August at this point. Well, I would say for the likes of, oh jeez, I can't remember how much days that we've got, but in forms of almost nearly towards the end of August. Well, as far as I've noticed something right from the get-go, is the fact that we've only got ourselves like, let's just say 8 or 9 days to go until whenever when it gets to September. So, yeah, I was quite surprised actually, because even then though, that's just all I could really think about this at the time's sake. So, anyways though, so yeah, I guess I should probably talk about more stuff of what's been happening during the likes of the past few days. Well, to be more accurately, since yesterday, because you know I talked all about the forms of Super Mario Party and during the last couple of moments worth noting for. Well, apparently though, they did actually bring us something new to the table, like the forms of, they actually reveals the second board so far in the forms of Super Mario Party. Well, only the forms of Party Mode now will have to be somewhat of a tropical setting board, like the forms of a whole bunch of fruits, like the forms of watermelon and pineapple of all things, and especially there's also another one here and there as well. But very interesting actually, because well, we have technically seen a fruit tropical setting level board like this ever since, well, Yoshi's Tropical Island from the first Mario Party, which I believe that's how usually this match are able to set it in all by itself. But even then, I wasn't really too sure on that one though. So, and also they managed to able to reveal their new mode into the forms of Super Mario Party, and that will have to be River Survival, which is basically a somewhat of a similar mode of how it does in the Wii Party series. The one time you have to able to like cooperate between the 2 of us, but this time around though it's all 4 players this time around though, so it makes a very interesting dynamic in the forms of any other Mario Party game since. So even then though, that's all about teamwork aspect, and even then though, that I don't know if it's somewhat feels a bit too similar to Sonic Shuffle when you're ever trying to able to help someone to able to actually just you know, team up together to able to actually just get onto something. Although I may be thinking of something else, but I'm pretty sure there might be something that's a little bit different for the party game like this ever since the Wii Party series. So, well, to be more accurately, both Wii Party and Wii Party U, to be more specifically, for the likes of the, well, ever since after 5 years ago, something like that. So, anyways though, yeah, today was actually forms of, well, I've already mentioned about this before, that it's 23rd of August today, and also, that is also another thing I just want to talk about this, is that I've recently got myself my brand new console. It's the fact that I've already talked about this in the last video ago, that I managed to able to get myself the Sega Saturn. Well, we won't exactly going to do the unboxing of that console for just yet. That's only because, well, not only because we have to do the exact same pattern between Christmas video unboxings and 2 unboxing videos all in the same pattern, which I know some people seem to get a little bit more tiring about that part, but I'm sure we can able to actually do the Sega Saturn console unboxing video at some point or another. But not now though, because, well, we'll do the updated video of that particular channel so far once we're able to actually just to get to October sometime. So even then, yeah, that's what I can really say about this for the most part though. So yeah, I might be very curious to see how, well, I've already noticed about the fact that what the river survival was in the forms of Super Mario Party, in the forms of the actual brand new mode they actually introduced. It's basically we have to able to throw down in the forms of the actual river, and there are some plenty of branching pathways you can actually go to, like different locales, different locations, and sometimes they're going to be bringing us to ourselves the forms of minigame balloons every once in a while, which even then, if you manage to pop the minigame balloon out, then you would able to anticipate the actual cooperative minigame. So yeah, that's very interesting to say the least, and I'm pretty sure that this game will not feature boss battles anymore, unlike in the forms of how it does it in Mario Party 9, Mario Party Island Tour, and Mario Party 10, and Mario Party Star Rush. And well, they don't have a boss battles or anything like that in the top 100, well, aside from the final boss against with Bowser. I'm guessing because Bowser might decide to take a break becoming a villain now, in the forms of the actual Mario Party series for now, because even then, because of that though, he was getting sick of like being a bad guy of all things. Well, even then though, yeah, that's what I can really think about for the time. So anyways though, here we go with Magic Man, by the way, if you can see on screen here. Now, what makes Magic Man stage kind of difficult sometimes, and that was the forms of how the fact that, you know, with the forms of how the fact that there's no rush adapters or anything like that, we need to able to actually deal with, you know, these little rotational platforms you can able to actually hop into. Well, we have to deal with them right now, even without the actual rush adapter, which even then though, that can get a lot of platforming sections can get increasingly difficult, especially noticeable when the forms of how it doesn't usually help. How the fact of the matter is though is that this game is very stingy when it comes to enemy placements and all that stuff, because they appeared a lot of places and stuff like that sometimes, which even then though, that can cause a lot of like lose concentration and all that stuff, which even then though, that can get a lot of potentials going. So, I can definitely see how the fact of the matter is though, that Mega Man is considerably still as the hardest mode of the game, because, well, the game's design, with the forms of the level design not to mention, it does not seem to work well with him, because even then I feel incredibly sorry for him if he managed able to actually come into us the forms of, some difficult platforming sections like these, for instance. But then, as a result of that tradition, well, it just gets a little bit more nerve-wracking experience. So, is it possible that I can... Okay, that works. Originally, I was gonna go ahead and just slide through the actual door to able to actually get to the next room, but hey, at least that helps. So, another thing I was able to actually explain about the fact with the matter is with the forms of Super Mario Party. Recently they actually did manage to able to keep the exact same announcer voice as of how it does it back in E3 2018. So, but hey, at least we got ourselves a minigame announcer and stuff like that, much like in any other Mario Party game, to say the least. Well, because I'm glad for anyway, because unlike in Mario Party Advance, because of the cartridge limitations or something like that, and also Mario Party DS, also because of the cartridge limitations or something like that, and also sadly for Mario Party 10, that's because of how the fact that Mario Party 10 just managed to ditch out the forms of the minigame announcer, which makes me feel disappointing, because even then, because there's not much anything imaginative or anything like that, at least as far as I'm mainly concerned with that. Well, at least I still think the minigames are still very fun, even to this day, but you know, it's just a shame that Mario Party 10 does not have the forms of the minigame announcers, whilst the forms of Star Rush and the Top 100 has it, but now for Super Mario Party is now managed to able to actually get ourselves the, well, somewhat of a high-pitched voice ever since during in Mario Party 5. Well, technically Japanese version of Mario Party 7, because, well, in the Japanese version of Mario Party 6 and 7, they managed to borrow the exact same minigame announcer as, well, pretty much Mario Party 4 and 5 minigame announcers, pretty much. So, even then, at least I'm glad that voice makes a comeback or something like that, but a little bit more, modernized. So, but this time around though, it's the forms of in the ND Cube developer instead of the Hudson Soft developer, which still that I'm pretty sure that speaking of ND Cube, when it comes to the actual developer of the forms of Super Mario Party, as far as I've also noticed is the fact that they've recently managed to able to actually kept the exact same victory animations. When it comes to minigames and stuff like that, they managed to heavily borrow some of these victory animations for from Mario Party 10, which I'm pretty sure that's only because of how the fact that, well, the visuals do look a bit identical to how it does in Mario Party 10, but except it's all full 1080p instead of like, well, somewhat 720p. It all depends on some situations like that. So, but that's just how it is for the most part though. So here we go with Magic Man here. So one thing is kind of worth noting for is the fact that technically Mega Man can able to actually perform a little bit of a dash ability, but only can perform it once you're able to walk and then press the action button at the same time. So even then though, if you manage to perform that very, very well, then you would able to actually just classify to able to actually perform this right. So that's what I can really say about this. Other than that, so we've got ourselves our magic cards. So even then though, that we can able to actually snack those items, especially with health pickups and even weapon energy as a result for this matter too, then we could able to actually just potentially try to able to actually go after every single collectibles in some levels. Mainly the forms of I don't know if balls can actually just manage to work out with, but I guess I'll just find out things out for myself once we're able to actually get to later portions throughout. So now you remember any forms of the basis playthrough that normally I can able to perform a double jump to actually manage to reach up to that crystal block to able to destroy from? Well, now that I need to able to actually adjust the angle to the forms of the Tengu blade. And well, the actual magic card is pretty much exactly the same. So even then though, and I think that pretty much does it from here for now, because even then though, that way we can able to actually get ourselves, let's just say 300 plus bolts. So yeah, I just don't know why I just double checked in here, just because, well, it happens the exact same thing from the likes of my basis playthrough of the game, which I'm pretty sure that must have been somewhat uncommon these days. So there's our spectral crystal that we can able to actually just to take care of. And we pretty much will be good to go. So even then, now let's go ahead and leave this place for now. And we can able to actually just go ahead and move on to the next level. So, but first, before we do this, however, though, I'm pretty much going to have to get myself my next couple of upgraded items thanks to the, well, auto shop. So even then, now we got ourselves even more items that Mega Man can use. Here's Beat the Bird right onto the bottom right corner, which even then, what he can do is the fact that he can able to actually just to say, yeah, he can manage to able to, I don't know how beat actually works in this game, because unlike any forms of any other games for this matter though, because I was more accustomed to the forms of Mega Man 5 or 6, that it immediately targets your enemies. So apparently it just actually gives you a barrier, so that seems rather nice, but unfortunately though, I'm probably not gonna get him. So even then, let's just go ahead and get my another extra life. And in addition to that, I'm actually, you know, I've already managed to buy myself the forms of the energy saver, which is a godsend, especially noticeable if you want to able to actually have a easier time with the game, then you would able to actually don't drain as many of those weapon energies as much as you can, especially Eddie. So even then, because the reason why we need to able to get ourselves the energy saver, just because, well, you'd see why until we get to the very end of the forms of King Fortress 2. And even especially noticeable at the very end of the game in King Fortress 3. So because of that, I'm pretty much going to be able to be okay for the most part. Well, there's only one upgrade I might as well able to buy. And so when we get to the very end of this particular point for Mega Man, now will have to be the forms of the super barrier. So even then, that way I could able to actually disable the knockback occurrence. So that's pretty much how this will go. So here's Astro Man stage, new forms of Mega Man's playthrough on this particular game. Now, what makes it incredibly difficult with this particular level goes, with the forms of Mega Man himself, is the fact that you need to be right on with those particular jumps, which even then, I've already established that before in the forms of the last video. Well, apparently that, you know how the fact that when, if you're having a very comfortable time like base, for instance, that you can able to actually just go ahead and just manage to able to actually just bypass those blocks completely. But then, next thing you notice that, unfortunately, that Mega Man is going to have a hard time in this particular level right there. Well, it's not so bad for this beginning portion, up until the disappearing block starts to shine, because even then though, you know how much I really hate those particular platforming segments like this, and because of that though, the timing on these things can be extremely strict, I might as well add, because even then though, that what makes it incredibly difficult than the likes of how it does it in, any other Mega Man games is the fact that, well, there's no way we can able to actually just get ourselves useful items like the forms of the Magnet Beam from Mega Man 1 and Item 1, Item 2 especially, or well, to be more accurately, Item 2 from Mega Man 2. And yeah, this is what happens if you manage to press the wrong switch if you did not follow the sequence correctly. The lasers will start to shoot you, and as long as you're able to stand onto the forms of the actual corner, then you would able to be fine, and you should have no problems with it whatsoever. So let's go ahead and melt this little ice cube down, or in this case destroy it with the, well, to be more accurately with the spread drill. And not only that, we actually got 2 CDs, all in one particular area. So that's very cool, and let's go ahead and use the magic cards until we snack of the forms of bits of health. So yeah, I did not notice about that in the forms of the base's playthrough of the game because, well, base might have a very easier time with some of these levels like this, but if I think, I will admit though right away though, is the fact that, well, I'm actually able to actually use some of these weapons in this game sometimes in the levels themselves, but apparently though, the magic card might be very helpful when it comes to able to actually just trying to get these little health pickups and stuff like that. So yeah, that makes it very obvious at this point. Even then, I'm also able to do that for the next couple of levels up ahead, especially noticeable with King Fortress Stage 2, and especially noticeable with King Fortress Stage 3, so even then though, and also King's Fortress Stage 1, and oh, I did not notice there was actually the invisible alcove that, well, usually a very well hidden alcove, which apparently it actually gives me another CD that I've managed to get. So yeah, it's very interesting to say the least. So anyways though, so this is what I was talking about right there. You know, these disappearing blocks, they are incredibly strict with timing. Oh my goodness gracious. Soon, well, to make matters even much more worse than that is the fact that once you're able to get to this particular disappearing block sequences, that, to make matters worse than that is the fact that one of the starting blocks is actually over a pit of spikes. I mean, why do that though? Oh man, this game can get very traumatizing sometimes, even for some of the other gamers like this. So, and as a result of that addition, that you might as well able to die a lot in the forms of Mega Man, in the forms of this particular stage all by itself. So yeah, you guys can clearly tell how this is going, because even then though that, well, I just cannot believe we have to deal with these old disappearing blocks with strict timing for requirements going on, so, you know. So, yeah, this part can get a little bit tricky as well, especially noticeable if you want to get your accuracy timing going with the forms of Mega Man himself, because if you want to able to actually do this section with no damage whatsoever, then good luck with that, because even then though that, you know, level design can get pretty trolling at times. But anyways, so here we go with Astro Man for the 3rd time in a row in this game. Even especially noticeable for the 5th time in the forms of the actual classic Mega Man series. Well, to be more accurately though, this might actually be Mega Man's 3rd time we're actually going to be faced off against with him, because ever since in Mega Man 8, that, well, this might be the last sort of light of day for the forms of this particular Robot Master with Astro Man. So, well, it wasn't until when we actually get into, like, King Fortress Stage 3 that we might actually go ahead and deal with the actual Robot Master rematches and stuff like that. So, there we go. So now we've got ourselves one last Robot Master before we taking on the forms of King Fortress stages. So, if that's the case, then we should able to probably going to be tackled for these things a little bit more comfortable-ish. But it's just how the way the fact the matter is though, it's the fact that what makes this game so stingy compared to any other games in the series, that well, it doesn't give you any helpful items whatsoever. Like, you have to purposely try to deal with most of the levels without even using any of those helpful items. Or else there are some upgrades that you can able to actually get from your disposal of your leisure. But the thing the matter is though, it just doesn't even compare to the forms of the actual rush items, or even especially noticeable for rush adapters and stuff like that. And the super adapter from Mega Man 7, and pretty much every single items from item 1, 2, and 3 from Mega Man 2, or even Magnet Beam from Mega Man 1, which that might be seems a little bit problematic at points. So here we go, on to the final Robot Master level with the forms of Mega Man's playthrough. Now we'll have to be Dynamo Man. So even then know that after him, then we're pretty much gonna have to take on the forms of King Fortress stages, which, admittedly though, this might be a something else, because even then though, especially noticeable when we actually get into King Fortress Stage 2 of all things, aka the worst level in any other Mega Man games I've ever gonna be consist of come across into at this point. So, but I digress. So, I think that's about it for the most part though. I still have not seen any of those new gameplay footage of it yet, with the forms of Team Sonic Racing yet, but I'm sure it will actually get something out of it though, like the forms of the Ice Mountain level. They're going to be showing that off, and I don't know if they're going to be bringing us to the forms of the actual playable demo of all things, but we'll see what happens there. We'll definitely see what happens there, so... But I digress. Let's go ahead and just traverse for those conveyor belts here, in case we don't get burned by the forms of that particular flammable enemies ever since, you know, in Flame Man stage from Mega Man 6. And, yeah, I think that's about it, I think. But even then, oh yeah. Jeez, these little jerk-offs can really throw me off at points. Even I have to be extremely precise with all this patency I have to be able to actually just go ahead and cope with. But aside from that though, that's what I could really think about this other than that. So anyways, let's go ahead and just go over here, and hopefully we're not gonna go over there to the spikes, because that will be pretty unnecessary, because especially we'll automatically die from here. So, and if you want to go up here, that's how you get yourselves the next CD. But only Mega Man can only go after it, or else the forms of base, he cannot go after that. Because of that though, that's, you know, he just cannot slide or maneuvering correctly. So, but anyways though, well, thankfully though, we've got ourselves a bit of some health there, and we can able to take on the mini-boss fight in the Dynamo Man stage. In fact, this mini-boss might be a little bit easier with Mega Man this time around, because, well, you know the forms of the Mega Buster between, well, just a pea shooter from the forms of, well, to be more accurately for base's playthrough, that it'll do a little bit of amount of damage, but thankfully though, with the Charge Shot Mega Buster, with, well, for Mega Man anyway, can able to do a lot of damage with this particular eyeball looking machines. But you just have to be very careful though, because, well, the green goop might actually become very dangerous, and especially noticeable with that particular blue energy ball homing projectile right there, which hopefully it'll go disappear in about a few seconds. So even though I've technically already destroyed that, so, and good thing is the fact that we've actually come towards the checkpoint, so let's go ahead and move on. And because I just managed to die here, but that's okay though, because we actually reset onto that respawning point. Because of that, you know, now saving notification usually pops up. So yeah, for the most part though, let's go ahead and just continue throughout, and hopefully we might as well be able to bypass this section again. And hopefully this time around though, that we don't get as many of those trial and error situations like this. So, and as a result of that edition, well, there's not much else to really say about this other than that. So, yeah. Alright, so let's go ahead and hopefully trying to wait before we're able to actually see anything with the actual level design in mind. And, okay, this is gonna be safe, so hopefully I might as well do that. So there we go. And, yeah, I guess that was about it when it comes to more information and all that stuff, especially noticeable, like, there's some tons of information by the forms of, you know, Super Mario Party game, which I'm very surprised about this, actually, so, you know. Because, you know, unlike in Mario Party 10 back in E3 2014, it did usually just shows up anybody in forms of a little bit of information about the game, especially noticeable for future plannings is becoming. But somehow, in the forms of in Star Rush case, sometimes they actually did showcase up with the forms of the actual Toad Scramble mode, and especially noticeable with the Coin Avalon mode. Whilst the Mario Party the Top 100 only shows a little bit amount of modes, well, to be more accurately, by the forms of just 100 minigames compilation, rather than just actually putting onto ourselves tons of modes, like the forms of nostalgic retro boards, or in this case, remastered boards from every single Mario Party console games, well, from 1 through 10 anyway. And, but I was quite surprised how the fact of the matter is that Super Mario Party actually now finally gets ourselves more details for once. At least to be more accurately, between those 2 days of Nintendo E3 2018 press conferences, or in this case, just Treehouse Lives, which even then though, that's actually very much good, because even then though, that hopefully we can able to actually get the games much more successful for this time it goes. So even then though, that's all I can really say about this here. So here's Dynamo Man right there, but even then though, no one's actually taken down. Now normally in the forms of the basis playthrough, though, I always have a hard time with him sometimes. Well, thankfully though, that's in the forms of Mega Man's copy vision, especially with the Mega Buster of all things. Thankfully though, the damage output is actually gone pretty very strong than the likes of basis, you know, weapons themselves. But even then, that's only because of how the fact that Mega Man actually rocks the same ways of how it does it for previously. So, although sure, I more occasionally managed to get hit by him, so because thanks to his dash ability, that is very hard and pretty unpredictable to dodge at times. But hey, at least we've managed able to finish him off, and that concludes every single Robot Masters in the forms of Mega Man and Bass. Well, for the Mega Man's playthrough anyway, because even then, that's pretty much it. So, although other than we're gonna have to deal with the actual shrine of the actual, like, before we get into the King Fortress levels. So, and before beyond that, let's go ahead and save our game. So, we got ourselves 210 bolts. So, expecting we could get ourselves 410 bolts all in total. So even then, that we could able to actually get something out of it though. So let's go ahead and use the Thunderbolt here. And, oh no, what am I doing? I did not meant to get out. Although thankfully though, you don't lose the actual 100 bolts unless if you're actually trying to obtain one. Which even then though, thankfully though, that the game doesn't encourage you to able to actually just move along and stuff like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and switch over to Copy Vision, and boom, there's the last 100 bolts that we can able to get through. And that's pretty much it for every single shrines of the forms of, well, just the actual weapons themselves. So now we've got ourselves 410, as far as I've said this before, from the actual bolts amount. So with that being said, we're gonna end things off here, so join me next time on Let's Play Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance / Super Nintendo / Super Famicom for those who lived in Japan, in the forms of Mega Man's playthrough. It's the fact that we're gonna be taking on King Fortress levels. Oh boy, this is gonna be a nightmare with the forms of Mega Man himself, but I'll talk about more on that later, so see you guys then. Later, fellas.